system doesn't presume to know the answer before we look. I think we have found a way in our work, in our regulations, that balance professional judgment and data about student learning in a way that gets people to ask questions and dig deeper rather than make snap judgments about schools or kids. The rest of your sheet gives you some information. I won't go over it. It gives you some information about what the department is doing to give guidance and provide direction about how to move forward in this. So I call your attention particularly to January 10th and the workshops that will come right after that, these getting started workshops. The model at least gives you a starting point. And then we'll run some workshops and some other professional development for district teams to help people get started. People have questions and there are other pieces, so I haven't gotten into the student vote percent of it. If it seems appropriate later, we can get into it. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still do, but some years ago it had an excellent program that allowed college graduates who hadn't participated in education classes to, over the course of several months, earn their teacher certification, which I did, but then chose to go into journalism instead of public school teaching, and have been working for Representative Kulik for a while. Doris invited me to come to talk about a ballot question that may be facing voters in 2012 that has to do with teacher evaluation. And I have some real concerns about it because I think that what we've heard from Carla is an effort by the department, an effort by our teachers' organizations and by school committees to develop an incredibly collaborative process that can work at the district level and is intended to provide some flexibility and guidance. But it sounds to me as though it's an effort that people can adopt in ways that are most appropriate for their teachers and the district. And a ballot question that may be before voters in 2012 is a kind of one-size-fits-all initiative that would take away from the local districts, take away from the teachers, take away from the collaborative bargaining process, the opportunity to craft teacher evaluation of the kind that we've heard this outlined. And I think that the school committee caucus may, at some point, on reflecting a little bit more about the ballot question, want to take a position on it. It's possible that people throughout the state, in the education community, in the school committee community, and in teachers' organizations will probably be opposed to this ballot question because it takes away from the districts the opportunity to really craft their own teacher evaluations and would just create a law that would apply across the state without very much flexibility. So in Doris asking me to come and asking me to talk a little bit about the ballot question, I thought that people might be curious about where this idea came from, what the organization is that's putting it together, and how that maybe fits into an overall effort to shape education policy by people outside of the education community. So that's what I spent a little bit of time looking at after talking with Doris and in preparation for coming here this morning. The group that's putting the ballot initiative together is called Stand for Children, and I don't know if people are familiar with it or not. I'd be curious if folks here have heard of this group, Stand for Children. Is that something that people are a little bit familiar with, or maybe have some background on it? It's a great name. It sounds like a great organization. It was founded in the late or the mid-1990s. 1996 is when it got started. Started in Oregon. It's now with affiliations in 9 states, including Massachusetts. I looked at the board of directors because I felt that people who participate in the board are the people that shape the policies for the organization. And I really wasn't surprised to see, but somewhat disappointed to see that many of the people on the board of advisors in Massachusetts are actually involved in a lot of venture capital initiatives, people who don't see public schools the way Carla does or the way U.S. school committee members do, at least in my view, as critical public institutions, community-based institutions, institutions that are committed to providing a program and a place for all kids, but rather are looking at public schools and public school funding as a business opportunities. And we see that in the chairwoman of the board of Stand for Children is also a partner on a national group called the New Schools Venture Fund, which is dedicated to setting up chains or networks of charter schools, often for-profit initiatives, but where money is certainly a factor in putting together the charter school operation. And many of them at different places in different parts of the country have been seen to discourage kids with special needs from enrolling. That's certainly a way to increase your profit if you're not spending a lot of money on kids who have expensive educational needs. You have an opportunity to realize a better bottom line. In Massachusetts, Stand for Children has an advisory board that includes a lot of investment people from Baehr Capital, which is a venture capital firm that Mitt Romney's associated with, started in the mid-1980s. And again, looks at opportunities to make money, usually in the private sector, but here we see over the past 15 years that public schools and public education have become a new opportunity to make money. So Bain Capital is heavily represented on the Stand for Children's advisory board in Massachusetts, along with Fidelity Investments, Fisher Lynch Investments, EduVentures, which is primarily at this time a company focused on higher education, looking at virtual schools, virtual learning, distance learning, but is also exploring the full gamut from K through 12 on what business opportunities may be found there. So when I looked at the people who shaped the initiative Stand for Children, I became concerned that their interests are really perhaps in conflict with those values that many of us have about public schools as being community-based, democratically accountable, open to all kids. And it made me skeptical about the initiative. As I say, Carla did an excellent job of educating me, and probably you as well, on how this effort to create teacher evaluation is built around collaboration and is built around tailoring the process to the needs of each district in the state. I don't see that as, well, I see the Stand for Children initiative as being inconsistent with that. And so I think that I certainly share the reservations that Secretary Paul Rebel has about it. He's been asked a number of times what he thought about this initiative, and he's felt that it was premature. He thinks that it's important to give the model system that's being developed now a chance to play out before implementing something that would be more draconian across the board, one size fits all. And he's advised that perhaps people not support this initiative. I think that's a view shared by the Commissioner of Education as well, Mitchell Chester. So people at the highest level in Massachusetts in shaping education policy have reservations about this ballot question as well. And it's possible that it won't actually go forward. What the ballot process is fairly complicated in that you first of all have to submit your proposal to the Attorney General's office, who can rule on whether it's an appropriate type of question to bring to the voters of Massachusetts. There are some areas that the state has said aren't really appropriate for statewide ballot questions. Our Attorney General has looked at this proposal and said that she thinks it is one that meets the constitutional test for the state. Then you have to proceed to gather signatures. It's a percentage of the number of people who voted in the last gubernatorial election, but It's in the 60 to 70,000 range. You have to get 60 to 70,000 valid signatures. And Stanford Children has already gathered, so they say 100,000 signatures. So the likelihood is that they're prepared to put it on the ballot. There was a ballot initiative proposed last year by a charter school group that within a couple of months was able to raise about $300,000 or $400,000, gather the necessary signatures, with the idea of dramatically increasing the number of charter schools in the state, and also increasing the percentage of a public school district's budget that could be allocated to charter schools, doubling really what it's been. But they didn't go forward with that initiative because they were able to use it in negotiations with the legislature and kind of bend the legislative leaders in education to what it was that they were seeking. And so they got what they wanted in legislation that was enacted last year. And it's possible that Stanford Children may withdraw their initiative if they think that what's happening, what's coming out of the department is consistent with what they'd like to see. But they're also prepared to go forward with it. If they do, I would hope people would have serious reservations about it, because I believe that it undercuts the collaborative initiative that we're seeing in our department and the teachers and our school communities put together. So that's a summary of my assessment of this initiative.